Hi, and welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations. I'm your host, Fred Underwood. This is brought to you by Dream Big Sports. This podcast brings on powerful guests in the sports industry to have dope conversations about using digital transformation in brands and athletes. Today we bring on Ian Brown from ACIB Management Group. We have a great conversation. We're going to have a great conversation about blockchain and NIL and where all that intersects. So, uh, you know, I want to let you run down, your background and introduce yourself to the people.
For sure, for sure. First off, Fred, thank you for having me. Um, Holy Cross in 2019, and during my time there, I was playing football. I played quarterback. But my sophomore year, I ended up sustaining career-ending injuries that really forced me to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life moving forward. It was always football first, and really wasn't thinking about anything else. But those injuries really made me think, what in the world am I going to do after these 4 years? So I really started getting into finance really big. I thought that was going to be my route. Thought that was going to be my job coming out of school. But during the summers that I was spending at private equity firms, I couldn't stand the work. Couldn't stand the work at all. Staring at Excel spreadsheets, couldn't stand it. And really started talking to my roommate Andre about creating a business. We didn't know what this business was going to be, but neither of us really cared for the jobs that we were in at the time in college, and we were trying to figure out what the next step was. So when come around that May in 2019, we started just thinking about, hey, let's start a business. We really don't know what it is, but shoot, it's good for taxes. Like let's just start a business and just do it together. So that's what we did, and then just having more conversations about our life in sports and being able to stay in sports, we really started honing in on, all right, we want this company to be a sports company. What's kind of going on in the sports world right now? Like, how can we get in? And through more conversations and just more rumblings about this idea of NIL at the time,
Hmm.
we were like, listen, we both have jobs coming out of college. Let's just create this business for NIL whenever it passes. We do that, and fast forward a year, the NIL rule gets passed. And during that year, we really laid the groundwork to allow us to do what we're doing today. During that year, we started working with the Sierra Canyon basketball team. By the end of that year, we were running basketball operations for the whole thing, running everything.
Right.
And through that, we really built out our network, knowing that a lot of these guys are going to be going to college. A lot of them are going
Hmm.
to be able to monetize off their name, image, and likeness. So we really just cold calling, sending DMs to everybody, letting them know that we're in this space now and we're going to be working. And luckily, we were luckily that we put that year of work in because we were prepared whenever it got passed. We started
Gotcha.
talking to Jalen Clark, who was our first player that we started working with, and just hit the ground running. Businesses were really trying to get in with these people because for the longest, they haven't been able to market to those communities in the correct way.
All right.
Schools would often have to do the marketing, and it never just hit right. It never felt organic and like the guys actually wanted to do it.
All right.
So we started off with Jalen, and we are now at the place where we have about 13 people on our roster. We work with Sierra Canyon, a couple AAU programs, and we really think that we have NIL on the West Coast locked down.
Gotcha, gotcha. So let's take a step back and for people who don't know what NIL is, give them a brief synopsis of what it means to you and how what's the importance of it for an athlete.
For sure. So name, image, and likeness, for the first time in collegiate sports history, athletes are able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And that means that a player can be compensated for anything outside of the sport. Can't get paid to play, but can get paid to be in a commercial photo shoot,
Right.
Instagram, post, anything like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. And for that, we've just crossed over a year of NIL, right? What have
Yep.
you seen from the beginning to where we are now? What's the biggest change that you've seen?
The biggest change that I've seen is the lack of rules and how unafraid institutions are to kind of push the boundaries of this thing.
Gotcha.
We haven't reached the point of athletes being paid on the books to go to
Hmm.
schools, but you can see it happening. I mean, the transfer portal this year, you saw the wide receiver from Pitt get paid $3 million to go to USC.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest change. It really started off with people getting hit up in Instagram DMs, and now it's exploded to I believe influencer has a number going around that's $917 million was spent on NIL in the past
Mm.
year.
Yeah, that's it's like the gift and the curse, right? Like it's like, okay, happy that these kids are able to make their money, but it's becoming a very fast moving thing that is very difficult to control or to manage, because not necessarily that you want to control it, but it's like you just said, they're pushing the boundaries, and these schools are just figuring out ways to manipulate the rules and what or lack thereof rules.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think that manipulation ends up working in favor of the kids.
Yeah.
So as long as the kids are getting paid, I'm happy with it. Break all the rules because that's
Yep.
how it should have been happening in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly. Instead of the under the table handshake deals, now we have something
Exactly.
official, and making sure that they are well compensated for what they were previously just being used for, right? But my follow up question to that is, what do you all do to put in place to make sure these kids are getting a lot of money, but there is the flip side of that is how are they still not being able to be taken advantage of, because there's still ways that their worth and what they're paid or what they bring to the table is not always going to be the same. So what do you all as your in your business do to help the client?
So at our management company, every contract that comes in, we go over the contract with that player. And every single player's situation is different. Some people meet with their parents, some people are doing it by themselves. But we meet with that athlete and really talk through how we as ACIB feel about the deal, and we ask them how they feel. And it's often as simple as that. A lot of these deals are very simple in what they are. And we have, especially going through this year, have seen where you can easily weed out the BS NIL deals, the
Hmm.
deals that kids are getting. Go on your Instagram DM, hey, use this promo code and post about us a
Right.
lot, and we'll give you $1,000. Well, they've probably done that to 50 other people, so they really have a market spend of $50,000, but they're taking advantage of you by having all of you post the same thing.
Right.
So it's being able to explain that to the athlete and then letting them make their decision from that educational standpoint.
Gotcha, gotcha. So with that, do you kind of have a idea of what the worth of the of said client is, or do you use any tools to kind of see, hey, this is your market value, this is how you should be looking at this deal? You like what? How do you go about that?
For sure. So we treat them like they're influencers. So
Hmm.
we go off of social media impact and how sticky those fans might be, and then sometimes it's dependent on institution if it's closer to that school in proximity. But
Hmm.
really, we just go off of what their followers are and what that might look like, unless the player is an extreme elite athlete and talent that doesn't necessarily have a hugely built out social media, but a company wants to be able to help their brand build as they progress and potentially make it to the whatever league it may be.
Gotcha. So what do you feel like are the perfect partnerships that you have seen so far? Like
The
what?
highest paying ones. No, so the the perfect partnership is really dependent on the athlete and what their brand is and where they're trying to go in the future. Where we have found our niche and kind of what has made us different. And it's really something that we have tried to lean in on because we're some really young guys in the game and there's some huge sharks. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So our differentiator has been blockchain and Web3 and making sure that these guys are able to own things. Um, that normal deals wouldn't allow. Nike's not giving you stock for playing at UCLA,
Right, right.
right? But a crypto company might do that if you have a big enough following and you're able to bring worth to whatever community that they're building. The difficult thing there is making sure that you're going through the weeds and fighting through everything because it's a difficult space to navigate. Luckily, we have people on our team who have been in the blockchain space since like 2014. Our guy Floyd in Chicago, so he's really able to help these kids and steer them in that path. And we make sure that the kids are educated going in. You don't just jump in without knowing what's going on because a lot of people are getting in trouble. Floyd Mayweather, De'Aaron Fox are ending up in lawsuits because of NFT mess that they're running around. So you have to make sure that you have a team around you that knows what they're doing, and
Mhm.
you also have to know what you're doing as well. So we've created education documents for everyone who wants to get into blockchain. We let people kind of dip their toes in and then slowly progress. And we also have a charity that we run at high schools that teaches blockchain and
Cool.
finance called After School Block that we also push and help get that education materials out.
Cool. Okay, and so for the listeners, like I talked to a couple of athletes before this, I want you
Mhm.
to kind of explain blockchain, how it works in the sense. I think pretty much everybody knows Bitcoin and everything of that nature, but
Yeah.
what does that look like in the context of sports?
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Like
what
in
does
which way?
how are blockchain technology? What types of opportunities are there for
Okay.
these athletes?
Got you. So there's a ton. There's a ton. There's a lot of innovation going on in the blockchain space. The largest place that we've seen things get done is in social tokens. So we launched a social token with Jalen Clark, and it was a great trial run. It's no longer necessarily live, but when we first started it during the bull run of last year, yeah, probably, yeah, just a month after uh, this month right now. So in last September, we launched and it was incredible. He had one of the largest launches on the site, 500,000 impressions on that launch. So he was able to grow his community and brand extremely by launching a social token. And he was able to monetize by using the blockchain in interesting ways and being able to have a floating price. It was an incredible case study that Jalen was able to do on social tokens. So that's one area. Another area is just traditional sponsorship. So um, the companies like Coinbase, Crypto.com, all are looking for onboarding. All are looking for wallet adaption.
Hmm.
So if you can promote to your community, hey, let's get these wallets, they have money for you and they have a lot of it. So
Gotcha.
if you can utilize the communities that you're around, UCLA is a huge community, USC is a huge community. Being able to use those, you can really get into the space and start making moves.
Gotcha. And so, and I want to go back to social tokens, but on the last one with
Mhm.
the sponsorship, is that an opportunity to get paid in that crypto, or are they paid in USD
Cash is
cash?
king. Cash is king. Allow yourself to be able to use those United States dollars to
Yeah.
then purchase however much you want. But
Right.
also
What
in
you
that
whatever you want
also
to. Yeah.
in that deal, you should also be getting those tokens as well because that's a piece of ownership. You're helping
Right.
them build, and a lot of blockchain companies lean on the fact that they're decentralized.
Hmm.
You're a big part of that decentralized organization if you're bringing the value of your
Right.
community into it. So you should receive some of those tokens, and you also should receive United States dollars always.
For sure, for sure. No, that's definitely a good point. So let's take a step back to social tokens. How give me a little bit more. I guess for someone who doesn't know what a social token is and how does it work.
So a social token is it's the same thing as Ethereum and Bitcoin. The only
Hmm.
difference is that it's not its own chain necessarily, unless it is an ERC20 token. There's a company out called Roll that is putting out ERC20 tokens for people, and I'll just explain their setup. So it's similar to Ethereum. You would allot a certain amount of coins that are allowed to your community.
Okay.
People would be able to buy in, and then your price would rise based on that liquidity pool of people buying in. Now, the way that Jalen's social token worked on Rally, I'm kind of getting the weeds here, but how Jalen how Jalen's social token worked on Rally, it was based off of the Rally token itself. So the Rally token is on the Ethereum sidechain and his coin was tied to the rally price.
Gotcha.
And what ends up making that difficult is if the tokenomics aren't perfect, the prices kind of get wonky if markets tank. If you're able to
Gotcha.
create your own ERC20 token, then you're able to truly control your economy and
Mm.
you're able to fully monetize and build from there. So that's where I think the change and a little difference is going to happen with social tokens moving forward
Yeah,
because
that
we haven't reached the point of mass adoption, but it's happening.
Yeah, so that makes sense because if if you're tied to the crypto or whatever coin that's out there, then like you said, you
Yeah,
fluctuate with the market, right? But if
for
you are
sure.
truly you know your coin is based on you and your value. Like let's just say
Yeah.
hypothetically, LeBron James has his own social token because the
Hmm.
markets tank. LeBron James' value is still LeBron James' value. Is that thought
Correct.
process correct?
Correct. So not necessarily on roll, but if LeBron was to do it, LeBron's not using the company. LeBron is using his own developers to create this
Yep,
himself, and that's exactly how it would work. Yeah.
gotcha. No, that's very interesting. That's it. And like you said, I've had this conversation, and our followers and our listeners have you know experienced this or heard this in previous episodes. But I think what you're talking about it lends to leveraging your personal brand versus going out and looking for deals. And I think that's
Absolutely.
the boat that a lot of athletes are missing. They're going out with their hand out trying to get, oh well, I need an NIL deal. I need an NIL deal. Versus you can create your own NIL deal. Does that make sense?
Exactly. 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 And I won't get in too much into the creation of your own NIL deal. I'll let people, that's kind of a if you know type deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as much as I'm gonna go into creating your own NIL deals.
Right. And so what do you say to the athlete that is, you know, let's just say the freshman athletes that's coming in, they're looking to best monetize their brand. What are some of the things that you all are teaching?
First off, figure out what your brand is and what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, figure out where you are, where your point A is, and then where your point B is, where you want to
Yeah.
go. And then once you know those things, you can start filling in the gaps and making that first step, second step, third step to exactly where you want to go. And send out a bunch of Instagram DMs. If you don't have a team around you, throw stuff at the wall until it sticks. You would
Right.
be surprised what companies will just send you a bunch of shoes, send
Right.
you a bunch of clothes, um, if if you have the right social following,
Right.
or if you just show that you're an athlete on a team that they like,
Right.
you can end up cleaning up with NIL.
Yep, especially from a like you just said, like do it from a location standpoint. Whatever's
Yeah.
in your in your city or in your town, like especially these college towns, like reach out to everyone you can and see what you can actually do and leverage to make yourself you know a prime prospect for them. Makes
If
sense.
you are a starter on a D1 football or basketball team, call all of the local restaurants because
Yep.
you shouldn't be paying for food. You
Ever
shouldn't be paying
again.
for food.
And I think that like that was the simple part of it, right? Like why would an athlete just in the past, why would they ever go hungry? Like
Exactly.
they make these restaurants, these fast food places money because they bring people into town. So why would an athlete at any point in the NCAA would it be a problem that they couldn't eat? Like it was ridiculous.
I mean, I can tell you, I know exactly why. It's just greed. It's just greedy. It's just
Yeah.
greedy. I mean, people at the top wanted as much money as possible. It doesn't make any sense that a $1 billion industry can have a labor force as large as the athletes that the NCAA has under it and not pay any of them. Like it doesn't make any sense. So good thing that we're going in the right direction.
Yep.
We're nowhere near where we need to be because these athletes need to be being paid by the institutions that they work for. But we're getting there.
Yep. And so, like that alone, right? So, where do you see NIL collectives? How do you feel about them?
NIL collectives are a good first step. NIL collectives are a good first step, and they're going to eventually force the hand of the NCAA in what is going to happen because these boosters, for the longest, because of the NCAA rules, haven't been able to do this. They've been able to give money to the Alabamas of the world. You can build the nicest facilities in the world. Players aren't able to see the money. If the boosters could just pay these guys, they would do it.
Yep.
If you can go down the aisle and go to the water cooler and you're able as an Alabama fan to talk mess to an LSU fan, being able to say that, hey, I got that wide receiver who was scoring on you all last Saturday. That's the biggest thing that you can get. You can't buy enough water treadmills to be able to do something like that. So I
Right.
think NIL collectives are incredible for getting people paid. They haven't pushed them far enough. And I wish, and hopefully it's going to happen, that some of these larger schools are going to put enough pressure on the NCAA to make them crack.
Yep. And so, as far as the difference between, the NIL collectives and, like you said, they need to pay them. You're starting to see a lot of these deals where it's like, okay, they put together a collective where each athlete gets 30K a
Yep.
year or whatever it is. Isn't
Hmm.
that basically paying the athletes if they're getting
Yes, it
if
is.
it's getting to the point where they just get a salary?
That's exactly what it is. Texas Tech just recently did it. 25,000 for all the football players, 25,000 for all of the basketball players, men and women. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible, and that's exactly what should be happening. But it shouldn't have to just come from the boosters. They should be getting paid from the boosters and the schools that they're working for, because the
Gotcha.
schools are the ones who are ultimately making the money still.
Gotcha.
Boosters
So
don't get to
so
see
what you're
any of it.
saying is
They get a tax break.
yeah, so what you're saying is the money that, because the schools are still getting their sponsorship deals. They're still getting their
Exactly.
sponsorship money. They should still have to break bread with the athletes basically. That makes
Everything.
sense.
Yep. Those huge TV deals that you're bringing in
That makes
needs to be
sense.
split with the players.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. And that's just another way that they can do it. So you already opened it up for, them to get uh, you know, paid off their name, image, and likeness. And if they are going to get these TV deals, that's a part of their name, image, and likeness. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Okay. So where do you see the biggest opportunity in the future for these schools to capitalize on that? Is that it, or what how do you see blockchain um possibly intersecting with that?
Whew, that's loaded. So the first part where I see college sports going is more than likely with the alignment of the conferences. There's going to be two major conferences in college football and college basketball.
Yeah.
It's going to look more like the Eastern and
East
Western
East and
Conference is
West Conference.
probably what, yeah, yeah, it's probably going to look more like that than the Power Five conferences that we have right now. And once that happens, the TV deals are going to change, and there's only going to be two very, very large TV deals, more than likely. And then once that happens, players are probably going to have to get paid, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to be able to happen for a long time. There's a lot of long-standing TV deals that are happening right now, but once that split occurs and
Yeah.
there's a uniformity, the NCAA won't be able. There would be no reason to have a governing body when you just have the two, and it should be smooth sailing from there. Guys should start getting paid, hopefully, and then we'll go from there. But we'll see. Greed often prevails in this country, so
Yep.
we shall see.
Yep. Yep. And so you think that they will find a way to kind of finagle their way out of it from that standpoint,
Yeah, for the time being. For the time
yeah,
being, that they will figure out a way to not pay these players. It will go for as long as
as
they
long as it's
possibly can. Yeah, because I mean, guys should have been getting paid in the '80s, if we're being
right,
honest. Like
right.
once the '80s, mid '80s, late '80s hit, guys should have been getting a lot of money.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, I do want to dive a little bit more into the future of blockchain and where you see
Yep.
some ideas of where some of these athletes can capitalize on it. I know you're kind of West Coast based, so like just in general,
Mhm.
what how can some of these athletes capitalize on blockchain moving forward?
Reach out. You have a huge community. Just like I said before, a lot of these blockchain companies are very small right now, and they need onboarding help.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to utilize your community and be able to help these companies with onboarding is where I think the easiest and lowest hanging fruit is for these athletes. Now, for the athletes that are huge and hyper elite, I think there are more things that you can do with these companies that might allow you to get some equity
Mm-hmm.
on the back end, but you really have to be that top level
Yeah,
athlete
yeah.
to be doing that. But my biggest advice would be to get on crypto Twitter, figure out kind of what's going on in the crypto Twitter space, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
everything's happening.
Right.
A day in crypto Twitter is like a week a month sometimes in real life.
Hmm.
So it's moving really fast. Once you can really start seeing where certain projects are going, you might be able to get on with them. I know there's a lot of gaming projects that are being built in crypto that can be extremely interesting. Um, but it's really being able to navigate the market first and then really get yourself involved.
Gotcha.
You got to be
And
careful.
as far as community building, because I know that's a big part of that. What do you suggest of how they build their community?
Man, start a Discord. Start a Discord.
Yeah, figured
Start
that.
touching your community. Start touching your community. Start just start Twitch streaming. Anything that you can kind of have your base in one area and they're able to access you is huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
No, I think that that's probably one of the bigger things that people or athletes have been missing the boat on is right because they have all these fans for so long at these schools, but it's like they don't necessarily build that community. So they're just fans, but if you take those fans and make them into your community and you actually interact with them, you actually do some different things. It'll definitely be that's where you go from the level of them being fans and you being able to actually monetize them.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Chief Keef's got a Discord with 350,000 people in it. It's
Wow.
incredible.
Yeah, that's crazy. And from that standpoint, what about where does NFTs fit in from that standpoint of where you think that some of those opportunities lie?
Be careful. I would say be careful. A lot of NFT projects haven't performed, or not necessarily performed, not the right word. They haven't actualized on the utility that they were presenting.
Okay.
So I would just make sure, just be careful. Ask yourself, why is someone buying my NFT? Why are they doing that? What do they ultimately get from this product that I am giving to them? And if you have something to give, absolutely do it. It's a great way to digitally mark something. It's a great way to know, hey, I was the first person to get in. Um, if a card company isn't paying you enough money, man, make your own cards. Like, do your own thing, make your own art. So it's actually giving something to people.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have any issues legally on the back end if there's a crypto problem, if markets die out or something like that happens. Just
Right.
make sure that you're giving to the communities that are given to you.
Right. And that was my thought process is if you simplify it with the utility, that it makes sense, right? Because like I said, if you build a community and you actually have some utilities behind it, if it's hey a jersey signing or whatever it may be, hey a lunch with you get you buy this NFT, you get a lunch with me, or you go to go bowling with said athlete. Those are some things that you can simply do to be able to to solidify that NFT utility.
For sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And are there any utilities that you can think of that would be good for these athletes? Anybody that's possibly watching that wants to get into that space?
So not off the top of my head. So I think the way that I see NFTs is really personal to the community and whatever that community wants necessarily. Like, I see a lot of people who do tickets for NFTs,
Yep.
right? Let's say if you had a physical ticket to a 1998 Jay-Z show,
Yep.
I would like to hear about your experience, but I wouldn't necessarily want that ticket to be sold to me. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So it's thinking about, what am I giving to these people and what is the value held by this thing that I'm giving them,
Gotcha.
and thinking about it that way.
Gotcha. And so you're more so talking about the because the second buyer, right? Because a lot of the times it's like if you
Yeah,
hold that value, it's are you going to resell it or is it going to increase in value, right? So to
right.
your point is if I had a Jay-Z concert ticket, it's more so just because of this to say or for someone to see that I went to
Right.
that concert. I went to watch the throne or something of that nature. But
Exactly.
who's who is really going to buy, like you have to be that elite, you have to be Jay-Z for someone to
Exactly.
want to buy that NFT from you. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's having that understanding. And it's kind of a difficult, like, it's the lowest hanging fruit and it's the easiest thing to do, but only a very, very small group of creators are able to do things like that, that are able to hold that value for a long period of time. So as long as you have a community that's with you and that really rocks with you, you can find that, but you're gonna have to get creative.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And so I the difference is the only difference between the social tokens and the NFT is the utility behind it, because both of them kind of, I guess, raise in the value of the athlete, but what's the real difference between that?
So the difference is, well, you could make an NFT that has the same amount of tokens as a social token, right? But on a
Right.
social token, it's just a lot easier to mint, let's say, 100,000 tokens, or have a smart contract that's written where if those 100,000 tokens run out, then it's based on the liquidity pool and more
Mm-hmm.
tokens are minted based off of that.
Right.
So that's the difference. You're able to run an actual economy with the social token, while an NFT a lot more times is just a single run, and
Gotcha.
then you build off of those runs.
Gotcha. Okay. And like you said, you already done some. Is those are those social tokens something that you place that they can actually, because there's currency or whatever. Do they have something that they can purchase, or like how does that work? How does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we honestly, so we did 18 social tokens with Rally.io,
Hmm.
managing all of them, and we really just tried to get creative with how far can you push an economy. So we just really thought about it as if they were United States dollars and allowed people to purchase things that way. For instance, there's pairs of Jordans on Jalen's coin that you could purchase. UCLA gear that you could purchase with his coin.
Okay.
And you can only purchase these things with his coin. So that's what makes it different, and it feels like a fan club instead of just having them posted on his Instagram for anybody to purchase and buy.
Gotcha. So it's like some exclusivity to
Exactly.
those items.
Coin
And so
holders.
I mean,
Yeah.
the jersey or thing, or the UCLA jersey makes sense, but as far as the Jordans, are they like, okay, game Jordans that he wore, or like, is it?
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Game Jordans, UCLA PEs. He's got a couple of them with like notes written on them. So it's
Gotcha.
it's it's super exclusive to him.
No, that actually, and I can see why it makes more sense to go that route than the NFT route, because it gets a little murky and difficult going
Right.
that route versus the currency. Like you said, there's something tangible that you can purchase, and like you said, you're building an economy within his community, so that makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Well, no, I mean, those were some some eye opening things that you kind of went through. Those were the questions that I had. Is there anything that you want to kind of present to the people or talk to them about before we close out? I know we're reaching our time.
Yeah, no, I'm just keep it real simple. For any athlete out there, just know yourself, know your worth. People are trying to take advantage of you at every turn. The powers at be have really taken advantage of people, like I was saying earlier, since the 1980s. And so much money is being made that uh, you need to know your worth, and you need to know um that there's a lot of money to be made out there. And once you make that money, be smart. Be smart. A lot of these institutions are paying for your meals, they're putting you up. Save your money and make sure that you have money for the 40 years and not just the four that you're in school.
Yep. Yep. No, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, man, Ian, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Let people know where they can find you at. But yeah, I really appreciate it.
For sure. You can find me on Twitter, underscore OXCIB, and then on Instagram at IB underscore ACIB.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. We'll see you all next week with another episode of Powerhouse Conversations. See y'all later. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir.